Before we dive into today's episode, if you're a coach who wants a simple roadmap to turn your coaching vision into a life-first business, make sure you grab a copy of my free Spacious Business Blueprint. It's a one-page planning tool, plus a short training that walks you through the 7 core foundations that create steady client flow. So if things have been feeling scattered or heavier than you know they should, this is going to help you step back, look at the big picture, and see exactly what needs your focus right now. The link to grab your copy is in the show notes. All right, let's get into today's episode.
One of our main jobs as business owners is making decisions. Every day we're going to be making decisions. Some are small ones, some are much bigger. It might be what content to create, what offer to focus on, whether to change something in your business or how to spend your time. Maybe it's what opportunities to say yes to or which things to let go of. There's always different decisions to make. And I believe that the better we become at making decisions, the easier and more enjoyable business becomes. And that doesn't mean that we're always going to make the perfect decision or somehow know the exact right answer, because I don't believe there's one perfect path. There are many different ways to build your business, and what matters is learning to make decisions with more confidence and trusting ourselves and not spending weeks or months ruminating and endlessly questioning the same thing. Because clarity in your business will never come from just thinking harder or constantly gaining more and more information, but it will come from moving more quickly. And then knowing and trusting that the path reveals itself when you keep taking steps forward. And I've been reminded of this myself recently while making some refinements and changing some things in my own business. One of which is a new name for this podcast, which I'll talk more about later in the episode. But this episode is for you if you've been maybe overthinking some decisions in your business, maybe sitting on a decision that you haven't been making even though you know you need to, or maybe you're constantly changing your mind and jumping from strategy to strategy, wondering whether you're making the wrong choice and often looking back and thinking, should I have done this? Should I have done that? Am I on the right path? And that's making things feel hard or frustrating or less enjoyable. So today, we're going to talk about how to stop overthinking business decisions, how to make decisions more effectively, how to move forward and where to focus, and how to have more confidence in those decisions. So ultimately, you can enjoy the process of building your business a whole lot more. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Life First Business Design Podcast, where ambitious, purpose-led coaches and creatives trade hustle and burnout for simplicity, freedom, and work that truly lights them up. I'm Leonie, an ex-architect turned business owner, strategist, and coach on a mission to help other women create success on their own terms. Each week, we'll be diving into the strategies, the systems, and the mindset shifts that help you simplify, increase profitability, attract better fit clients, and create more freedom and fulfillment, so you can build a business that supports your life, not consumes it. If your goal is to build something that feels spacious, joyful, and actually fun, you're in the right place. So let's dive in. Hello and welcome to today's episode. As I said in the intro, this is all about making decisions. And the reason I've decided to record this today is because I've been making some decisions in my own business. I've had a couple of weeks off the podcast. I've just spent the last week in Fiji and gotten back. And that space has really given me a bit of room to think about things and think about some things that were on my mind for a while, and give myself a bit of space to think, okay, how am I going to move forward with these things and how am I going to do it without the impulse to just reinvent everything? Because I think sometimes that can be my default. When I've got a new idea, I get excited about it, and then suddenly I'm seeing all these different things I want to change. And I've realized that is not the best way to approach things in business, because business is really about a series of experiments and trying different things and testing things. And if you can approach decisions in that way and know that taking the first few steps, getting some information, getting some data, then taking the next steps, that is much better than making a spontaneous decision or a big decision and then redoing everything. So that's what I've been thinking about. And it's been helpful to give myself a bit of space and time with those things to see, okay, how am I going to approach this? So that's one thing I've definitely learned, is that not reinventing everything and not completely scrapping everything you've done before and moving forward with something new is not the answer. And I think that having the belief that you need complete confidence in a decision before you can take action keeps a lot of us stuck in business, because actually the truth is the confidence comes once you start taking the action. And also the trust is not in trusting that this was the perfect decision, but in trusting I can move forward with this and I can be agile and dynamic and flexible to react thoughtfully to everything I see happening, and trusting that the right path will reveal itself if I commit to this decision for long enough, and if I stop questioning all the other options that I've left behind and thinking, oh, maybe I chose the wrong thing, and actually focusing on this is what I've decided, I'm going to commit to it, I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to give it enough effort and focus and commitment to see it working. So that's what this episode is all about today. And the first thing I really want to touch on is that idea that there's not one perfect decision, because often I think we think that's the right thing, whether you're thinking about what niche to choose or what offer to create or what next steps to take in your business or what opportunities to seek out or say yes to. We can often believe that there's one perfect decision and that's the thing I have to find, the perfect strategy, and then everything will work after I've found that perfect thing. But the success isn't about choosing the perfect decisions. It's in how you execute those decisions that you do make, knowing that you can build success in your business in multiple different ways, in lots of different niches, with lots of different offers. And the question isn't what's the perfect choice, but the question should be, what am I willing to commit to long enough to give it the chance to work? And that's really where you want to focus when you're making those decisions, especially if they're big ones. Am I willing to commit to this decision for long enough and give it the chance it needs? And know that when you don't have that level of commitment, that's what's going to keep you stuck for longer. Then the second thing is that ruminating and gaining and collecting more and more information before you make a decision just creates more confusion, not more clarity. And I've fallen foul to this in the past as well, where I will think, okay, the longer I think about this decision or the harder I think about this decision, the more clear I'll get. But actually, you just go round and round in circles and you get more confused. And you need to set some boundaries with yourself on like how long you're going to spend on a decision, how much information you're going to keep collecting, how many different people or places are you going to go for advice or opinions, because the more you do that, often the more confused you'll get. And the reason I think this is really apt now is because of AI. A lot of people are turning to AI to help explore ideas or make decisions. And I was having a conversation with someone recently about how a lot of us in business kind of might not be diagnosed with ADHD or something like that, but often see a lot of those traits in that more ADHD side of the spectrum with our processes and the way we think and the way that we have ideas and lots of tabs open in our brain. And I think AI is fueling that so much. It's like ADHD on speed, because every single idea you have, you've suddenly got this way of getting feedback and putting words to those ideas and exploring them suddenly with all this information. And what AI seems to do, or ChatGPT or Claude, is it will tell you every idea is a good idea. And that's worrying, because if it's always telling you, yeah, that's a great idea, it's really going to fuel this tendency that I think a lot of us have of the safety of ideation, the safety and the excitement of being in that ideas phase and exploring ideas. And there's always this inevitable feeling when you make that decision and then you start thinking, okay, now I've got to commit to this. Now I've got to take the action. Now I've got to do the uncomfortable stuff, like putting things out into the world, getting visible, committing to something that might feel boring after a while, and that's normal. And when we've got this immediate feedback to these other ideas, it's so easy to think, oh, maybe I should have done this, and then start exploring that and suddenly having this full-blown plan for something else. And that's really going to help you stay in that phase of idea exploration and jumping from option to option and strategy to strategy. And as soon as you get into that comfortable feeling of, oh, maybe this is going to be harder than I thought, or maybe this is going to be more work than I thought, maybe I should do something else, And I think that's really dangerous and something to be aware of. If you are using AI a lot in your business, are you working less hours? Is it saving you time? Is it causing you to have less on your mind or more on your mind? Because if it's the latter, then you really should question the way that you're using it and maybe think, is it serving you if it's doing those things, if it's helping you stay in indecision for longer rather than helping you move forward more quickly? Because that's really the way you want to use it, to move forward more quickly, to speed up things that might slow you down, and not to allow you to spend more time thinking and strategizing. Now, all of this goes without saying that you do want to think decisions through, obviously, and you do want to have a plan around them, and you do want to have done some weighing up the pros and cons and all of that. But it's when you get stuck in that for a long time, and then when you semi-commit to something and then try something else, that's when it's going to be causing you problem. So make the decision and then focus on making it work. And I've been reminding myself of this lately. So don't keep making the decision, make it once, then spend your energy working on it and making it work. And instead of asking, was this the right decision, and constantly questioning that, ask yourself, how do I make this decision successful, and make that your focus. And then know that you don't need 100% certainty on any decision. You just need that self-trust that you can make it work, that you can explore this and experiment. And a lot of it is in releasing some control and trusting yourself that you can adjust if you need to, that you can pivot slightly, you can refine. And that's the main thing. It's all about refining and gaining information, getting data, and then refining. And that you simply need enough trust in yourself to know everything's figure outable. I can figure it out. Whatever happens, I can figure it out. And if you are someone that feels like you need a lot of control over situations, I can be like that often, then that's a really big lesson in business, is actually releasing some control, knowing that you can't control everything. There's always going to be external factors affecting the way things work, and releasing the tie of the outcome to yourself, and not thinking that if an outcome isn't what you hoped for, that it's your fault, that it's your failure, that it's something that you're doing wrong. And actually thinking, no, this is business. This is what it's all about. There's always going to be things that don't go quite to plan, and things that go better than that you planned. And that's just the balance of business. And it's nothing to do with you. It's not that you've done anything wrong. It's just part of the process. And I think releasing that control, releasing that belief is so helpful in moving forward. And also removing the comparison, because often you can see other people succeeding and doing things that you've wanted to do and think that it's all just worked out for them and everything's just fallen into place. But often you haven't seen everything that's gone before that, and all the failures they've had and all the decisions they've had to make and refine along the way. So just reminding yourself of that and knowing that's the normal part of business can be really helpful. And particularly if you've come from maybe an ex-corporate background or the education system where it was very much more a linear process of climbing the ladder and take this step and then take this step and then get this promotion. We can often have this thought in our mind that it should be this linear process or linear process of growth. And that's not the case in business and entrepreneurship. It is often a bit more of a curvy path and not a direct route from A to B. And that's normal and that's part of it. So know that refinement isn't failure. It's all part of the process. And I think all of this stuff has been playing on my mind recently as I've been making some changes. So you'll notice there's a new name to the podcast now. It's only a slight change, but it's gone from being the Life First Coaching Business Podcast to the Life First Business Design Podcast. And the reason for that is I've been thinking a lot about my philosophy in my coaching and how I approach business and business strategy. And a lot of that is around designing a business and designing a business with a clear end goal in mind, the life first business. So your business will look different to someone else's based on your goals, your circumstances, your expertise. And that's what life first business design is all about. It's about creating that vision for yourself and then reverse engineering your strategy from there. And that's what I love to do. That's what I'm good at doing. And I think a lot of that comes from my background as a designer, as an architect, and in the way I approach problems and the way I problem solve. So that's my philosophy coming into the name of the podcast. But it's also because I have decided to expand the type of person I'm talking to coaches and creatives, because what I've realized is that the work I do is relevant to all those people. And I have experience as a creative business owner and as a coach, and I understand both those types of businesses. And actually recently I've worked with a few coaches who are creatives and coaches, or ex-creatives and coaches. And I've had clients as well who are creative service providers. And I realize how much I love working with those clients as well, and how much I love talking about the creative process or working on project work, positioning yourself for better fit clients in coaching and in creative work. And everything I teach covers both those types of business owners, whether it's personal branding, positioning, offer creation, pricing, systems, income plans, capacity planning. All those things come into both types of clients. So I'm really excited to expand on who I'm working with, expand who this podcast is for. And I already know I have listeners who aren't coaches who say to me, I still listen to your podcast because I find so much of it relevant to my business as well. I'm excited to do that, and it's not leaving behind any of my clients. It's not changing any of my offers. It's just expanding on who I help. So I'm really excited about these changes. And as I said, it's in no way is it a complete pivot or change to my business, but it's just the next level of refinement in what I'm doing and how I'm serving my clients and what I'm excited about, and how I'm approaching business owners who might be in those earlier stages and needing more clients, but also serving those creatives and coaches who are established. They're busy, they're booked out, but things aren't working for them the way they'd like. They're maybe working more hours than they want, maybe not as profitable as they'd like, and how we can streamline and simplify and optimize business so that it does actually work for your life. And that all starts with that design focus and how we approach designing the strategy of the business. So I'm really excited. And I think what's interesting is I've almost done like a bit of a full circle when it comes to that, because when I started out, I was working with any solopreneur service provider. So I've kind of come full circle with that. And I think when you do a full circle with something, you can sometimes think, oh, why did I take that diversion? Or why did I move away from that? And now I've come back to it. But actually you have to think about all the things that you learn along the way, all the experience you gain, and how much that has served you. So again, I don't think those full circle moments in any way are a failure or a misstep. They are all part of the process, and it is a process. And so that's what I've been reminding myself, and I think that could be helpful to a lot of you listening as well. So the last thing I'd like to leave you with today is a question to ask yourself. What's one decision that you've been sitting on for a while or lately that really needs your commitment? Maybe it's an offer you're looking to create, or maybe it's something you were looking to launch or start, or something that you were looking to simplify. It could be a decision to raise your prices, or a decision to refine your niche in some way. So whatever that decision is, give yourself permission to put some boundaries around the questioning of it and the decision of it, and actually start building and start taking action, and look at it as what could be some simple first steps I could take towards testing this idea and testing this decision. How much time do I need to give it to commit to this? So I hope that's helpful, something to leave you to think about today. As always, get in touch with me and let me know your takeaways from this episode, or maybe let me know what comes up when you think about that question. I hope it's helped you see that you can hone this skill of making decisions, and it's something that you can get better at and you can improve on, and having that awareness of maybe some of the things that you're doing that are keeping you stuck in indecision is the first step to help you move forward. And also getting support that's going to help you with decision making, that's maybe a human being versus an AI chatbot, is also really helpful. I find this when I'm working with my clients in a one-to-one situation, that one of the most helpful things is having someone to ask the right questions when it comes to a decision, because when you're on the outside, it's so much easier to see those right things that need to be asked and need to be considered. And often when a client is just talking to me and telling me about their business, I can pick out those key things that they've said that really point towards a certain direction that it can be really hard to see yourself when you're in the bubble of your business and you're really close to things. So that can be really helpful as well, to just get that outside perspective on those key decisions and on deciding what your next steps should be. So I'll leave it there. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Or if you're new here and this is the first episode you've listened to, welcome, and I'll be back again in your ears next week. In the meantime, if you know another coach or a business owner who would find this episode helpful, please share it with them as well and spread the word. And I'll catch you again next week. Take care. Before you go, if you're looking for more clarity in your business, maybe you want more clients or better fit clients, more profit, or simply a more sustainable way to grow, and you'd love a fresh set of eyes on your strategy, each month I offer a small number of business strategy deep dives that are for coaches and creatives who want more freedom, more fulfillment, and more ease in their business. Together, we'll look at what's working, what's not, and where your biggest opportunities lie, so you can walk away with a clear 90-day plan. You can stop circling, stop second guessing, and instead know exactly where to focus next. If that sounds like exactly what you need, you can find all the details and book your session through the link in the show notes. Until next time, take care. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you here again next week.